All right, so Phil's made it clear that he believes Melo should waive his no-trade clause, and over the weekend at the NBA Draft Combine, he reiterated that belief, saying he wants to see him have success somewhere else because the Knicks would be a lucky playoff team next year. Stephen A., who looks worse in this mess, Phil or Carmelo?
I think Melo looks worse, believe it or not. We all know that Phil Jackson has been inept as an executive, that he's made headlines because of stuff that has come out of his mouth as opposed to the productivity within the Knicks basketball operations. But at some point in time, if you're Carmelo Anthony, who has never played in an NBA Finals, who has only been to one conference finals, who has missed the playoffs the last several years, I mean, the last 4 seasons and counting, at some point in time, we have to look at you and ask ourselves the question, how badly do you want this? I got a lot of love for Melo. I've known Melo for years, and I think that he's a star offensive talent. But I got to ask myself, how badly do you want this? I know you got your money. Okay, that's fine. You got your money. Do you want to win? We see LeBron chasing ghosts. We see D. Wade as a 3-time champion. Even though Chris Paul has had similar failures because he's never played in the conference finals or an NBA finals, we see the pit bull in him, the attitude that emanates from him in terms of how much losing hurts him. All we see from Melo is that he's Melo. And what I'm saying is, this is wild. Phil Jackson is talking smack about him, basically pushing him out. Let me tell you the difference between Carmelo Anthony and Chris Paul. Let Doc Rivers or even Steve Ballmer, for example, let somebody utter those words out of their mouths about Chris Paul. He needs to leave. He needs to go someplace else. It would be better for him to be. Chris Paul will be out of there in a hot second. He'd be like, y'all kick rocks. I'm out. You don't want me. I don't want you. Now, maybe Melo is doing that behind the scenes. As a matter of fact, I'm here to tell you he's doing that behind the scenes. But the public dismissal of him, considering who he is, it's so obvious to allow yourself to be disrespected, because that's exactly what Phil Jackson is doing to him. And to have so little to say is disappointing, because I know Melo to be a stronger dude than that, and he's different from somebody like me, maybe you, Max, maybe somebody else, where he don't want to come out and just speak adamantly about something. But I do think there are times in your career where it's called upon for you to do so, and I think Phil Jackson has provoked him to that point, and the fact that he's so quiet, he comes across as docile.
I'll tell you
in
why.
All of this, and I don't like it.
I'll tell you why Phil looks worse. Because going into this, if someone said, are you Team Phil or Team Carmelo? If I was just posed that question, I'm Team Phil. One guy's got 11 rings. 2 as a player. He got a full playoff share back when, even though he was hurt for the second one. 2 as a player, 11 as a coach. Versus Carmelo Anthony. Never been to a conference, never been to a finals. Who am I, Team what? Carmelo Anthony, who stopped the ball in the middle of Linsanity. I was there arguing on New York, right? No, he's going to be fine. He's not going to. He stopped the ball. I would have been Team Phil. But you know what I am right now? 100% Team Carmelo. So I know if Phil Jackson is so transparent doing this garbage that he can flip me from being Team Phil, I was a big fan of his, to being totally against him and totally Team Carmelo. He has turned Carmelo Anthony into a sympathetic figure. Now, I understand your point of view, Stephen A., if you say, look, what superstar is going to get pushed around like this, especially by a clown franchise? And let me be very clear. The Knicks are a clown franchise. Hear that, Dolan? Dolan, where's Dolan? You're a clown franchise, and the whole world knows it. And so what superstar gets pushed around by a franchise like that? Well, the answer is Melo. So it looks bad for him in the short run. But it's so transparent what Phil is doing. Who signed Carmelo to that deal? Phil Jackson. And then they got Kristaps Porzingis. And what can he do with all that? Nothing. And he had some assets to trade, including he used Shumpert to get out of the J.R. Smith deal. J.R. Smith turned out to be a valuable player and a good defender, by the way, under the right circumstances. What'd he get for it? Nothing. What do you get for Tyson Chandler? Nothing. More contract problems. What do you do? But you have Kristaps Porzingis and Carmelo Anthony, and you can't do anything with that. And now you're pointing the finger at Carmelo Anthony. So you know what's going to happen post this, Stephen A.? Carmelo will wind up on a team, because now he's an undervalued asset, because Phil Jackson has devalued him in the marketplace. Who scoops up undervalued assets? Smart teams like, I don't know, the Spurs. You know what Greg Popovich is going to do with Carmelo Anthony? Or who are they going to pair him with? Someone like Chris Paul? You know what Chris Paul is going to do with Carmelo Anthony? And this chapter in Phil Jackson's career is going to be worse than MJ in Washington. It's going to be worse than Patrick Ewing in Seattle. This is going to be the worst final act in someone's NBA career, maybe of all time. It is Phil Jackson is tarnishing his amazing legacy with this garbage, and he looks worse than Carmelo Anthony, even in the short run, I think, but certainly in the long run. Carmelo's going to go on to have some success somewhere. Phil Jackson, this is it.
The reason I disagree with you is because nobody is asking, Carmelo Anthony to go out there and act like a hooligan. But at the same time, Phil Jackson gets a pass when Phil Jackson continues doing all the talking and nothing is happening. At the end of the day, if you're Carmelo Anthony, get me up out of here then. Go ahead and make the deal. You understand what the conditions are. If you're Carmelo Anthony, what's wrong with letting the public know? Listen, he knows what time it is. He knows what he's done. I didn't tell y'all how he was there trying to run practices instead of letting the coaches do it. I didn't tell y'all some of the things that he did to get in our way, to derail our success. I didn't tell you what he promised me and what he promised y'all, and then he hoodwinked us. Carmelo Anthony, there's a lot of things.
To his credit?
Listen, I'm saying there are times when that exact approach, for the most part, it's to your credit until it's too much. And you know what this is the equivalent of? And I'll tell you, and I've said this to numerous players on many, many occasions. Max, if somebody comes up to you, right, and they tap you, like slap you, just a little tap in the face, there's nothing about that that hurts. But if they keep doing it, it ticks you the hell off. And that's what
Morris
Phil
better not whack you on the butt again. That's what you're saying.
No. I'm talking about
Morris,
little tack on the face. It don't hurt. But the fact that he keeps doing it, how many times has Phil Jackson spoken about Carmelo Anthony? And in the end, regardless of how you want to slice it, even though we all know what Phil is doing, in the end, we also find ourselves questioning the armor of Melo. You know why? Because Melo comes across as somebody who looks entirely comfortable so long as he has his money. So long as he has his money. And I know for a fact he's better than that. I know for a fact that it means more to him than just the money, but he is giving people a license to think that because of what he's letting Phil get away with.
I know you're saying it's too much and it looks bad. In other words, he keeps getting bullied, and without a response, it looks bad. And I don't think that's necessarily the case if it's too much here, unless it's too late. As long as Carmelo still has enough in the tank where he can go somewhere else and win, then the best revenge is living well.
Max,
and when people look back, they'll see that he actually was the bigger man here.
You yourself, listen, we're all going to look at him. It don't take to look bigger than Phil at this particular moment in time. That's number one. Number two, you have been on the record saying on numerous occasions that Melo has slipped. You've said that.
Yes, I agree, but he's still good.
Well, what I'm saying to you is that you think it's slippage. I don't think it's slippage. I think it's Phil. I think it's Phil.
Well, even better then, because then when he's playing on the Spurs or on the Clippers, he'll ball out and Phil will look worse.
You got to get the hell up out of there.
He will.
Put pressure on Phil to do it.
He will.
He needs to.
And Phil will get less for him than he should.
When we come back, Game 7, Wizards and Celtics from Beantown, Washington pull off the upset. Find out that next. And the captain is immortalized in Yankee history, but find out what Derek Jeter did off the field.